welcome to the Power Gamer Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Dawson, joined as always by fellow host Johnny Paulus. Johnny, the leaves are turning, fall is around us, and I went to the Renaissance Festival all day yesterday and did Ren Fair things. You were excited about steak on a steak, and I did not have steak on a steak.
But I know you had a turkey leg, though.
I had a turkey leg. I had Scotch eggs.
Amen.
I had their fried cheese curds.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had some stuffed jalapenos a la Ren Fair style. Of course, I got the King's Baked Potato. I got one of those little...
I haven't had that.
The King's Baked Potato?
Mm-mm.
It's right next to the turkey leg stand, my man.
No, never had it.
Yeah, it's a loaded baked potato with broccoli, sour cream, cheese, bacon.
I don't think you can go wrong there. That sounds like a good thing.
And then their little Italian ice thing, which I love, the orange that's gutted and covered in Italian ice, just delicious. And a bunch of beer.
Well, yeah,
of course. It's Amy's birthday this week, so we went to
Happy
Ren Fair on
birthday,
Saturday. Amy. We had some family over today. Tuesday is her actual birthday. Which she'll get a nice dinner. And then next weekend is my birthday gift to her. And we're going to go see some characters from RuPaul's Drag Race at MGM.
Oh, cool. My wife would love that.
A live show or whatever. So me attending that with her is sort of her present. Not just the fact that I bought the tickets, but that I'm actually going to go watch this with her, because I've had to listen to these bitches in my house nonstop.
Oh, yeah.
Most people who are into it, RuPaul's Drag Race, right? They just watch the show, right? There's a show, comes on here in the United States, and that's it.
Right.
Did you know there is a monthly subscription you can pay for a channel that has them for all the countries in the world?
Oh, my God. Kill me.
So Amy doesn't just watch the United States one.
Oh, no.
We've got bitches from all over the globe.
Oh.
And it's like 5, 6 different series. And we watch them all. And so, like, she is the walking Wikipedia of Drag Race. So she's very excited.
Let me just establish for any of the listeners who have never listened to the show before, we are definitely allies to LGBT. Please do not take my negativity toward this as any slight toward that, but I just don't enjoy those television shows, and I think Mike would agree.
There's a second one, I forget what channel, I think it might be on Netflix, but it's like a horror-themed Drag Race.
Okay.
Where, like, they dress up like as, like, drag zombies and shit. That show is fucking awesome.
Okay, see, that sounds cool.
But yeah, no, the RuPaul one is like, I like drag, but like the RuPaul show is just bitches fighting.
Yes. No, that's the thing. I have no problem with drag queens. I love drag queens. I'd love to go to a drag queen show, but the fact that those TV shows are 90%, fake reality TV drama, that's the shit I can't stand.
Yeah.
Where it's like every episode is a new war between, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. I can't fall into that rabbit hole of TV. Can't do it.
Well, judged competition shows, as I've joked with Amy during our entire marriage, is like her thing.
Right.
And whether it's baking or drag or fashion or
I like the cooking shows.
Carving. Like we're going to start getting like the people making like the horror scenes out of food and stuff.
Yep.
Halloween Wars, I think it's called. We're into all of it here. So
no, see, that shit I dig, because there is no drama really. It's just like, here's somebody who's really talented at this thing, and here's 3 others that are talented at this thing, and here's the challenge. Go at it. Like, I love Chopped. Chopped is awesome.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So, Holiday Baking Championship, that's another one.
That's a good one.
There's so many. I've just lost track at this point, because like it's all that's on all the time, and then I sleep to Guy Fieri on Food Network.
Oh no!
Some people go to Dreamland. I go to Flavor Town. It's time for me to sleep.
Oh no.
You know, you might be sleeping, counting down sheep. I've got Guy Fieri screaming about donkey sauce as I'm trying to sleep. So.
Awesome. Well, so us getting set up for fall, this weekend we finally finished all of the Halloween decorations. So we have a 5-foot tall skeleton unicorn that's like a blow up, like you turn on the fan and he blows up. So he's a little skeleton unicorn with a rainbow horn, and he's holding a jack-o'-lantern in his lap, and he's really awesome. We have him, have a couple other light displays, and I found these really, really cool LED lights. They're on a string just like Christmas lights, but they're RGB, so they do any color. So there's a Halloween. So the reason why I bought these lights is so I can run these lights and I can leave them up all year long, because there's like Christmas presets, there's Halloween presets, there's 4th of July presets. Really cool. So they're set up, and I'm like, just now that they're there and they're hung, whenever I feel like doing some cool lights, I can just go over and press a couple buttons on the remote, and I'm there. But I was up on the roof a lot more than I wanted to be yesterday and today. Had a couple moments of like, okay, I'd like to get off the roof now, and it's just not a good feeling to be up there and dangling shit. You know, I'm not a small man. I'm start losing my balance and going, okay, I'm gonna go in the house now. But we're all done. It's done. We finished it. It looks great. Really happy with the Halloween decorations. So fall is here.
Yeah, I have my usual layout out of super bright orange and purple LEDs out in the front yard, and my blow up, I think it's like a cat ghost thing. It's like 4 feet tall. I don't know. It's real dopey and cute, and I found it at Home Depot, so I bought it. I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to episode 88 of the Power Gamer podcast. Man, we've got some stuff to talk about this week, but let's get started with where we always begin, and let's talk about what we've been playing this week. Johnny, I feel like a few weeks ago I said we should have a drop for what we've been playing this week.
I know. I haven't sat down and made it yet.
Can you make a note of... We need a drop for what we've been playing this
don't
week.
worry. You don't need to make a note. I think about it all the time. I've been trying to come up with, do I want a jingle? Because I think I kind of want a jingle. I think I need a little 2-liner. So then it comes down to like what word rhymes with playing. So like obviously you have saying, obeying. I don't know. But I want to have like a little 2-line sort of jingle. So I think about it a lot. Man. I just haven't got it. Don't worry, I'll get it. I'll get it. It'll be worth the wait, I promise.
I don't have the jingle ability.
I got you, baby. No problem.
I'll get started this week. I'll take the first crack. So, after finishing Tiny Tina, I kind of had this open window to jump into the backlog. Thank God. So I fired up Resident Evil 2, the remake. That originally came out on PS4, and now there's a free update for PS5 with ray tracing and all that. I've been playing it. It looks incredible. I know, like, the original Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 2 for PS1, I know that game inside out. This game is very similar, but it's also very different. But what is neat is that the whole world has just been translated down into a third-person camera perspective, but the whole layout is identical.
Right.
And the sequence that things happen is basically identical. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's really feels fresh just having that RE4, over-the-shoulder kind of camera angle. Runs like a dream, though, on the PS5, so kind of almost glad that I've waited this long to play it to get to do it with the update on PS5. I'm about halfway through it because I still have everything memorized in the game. I know what all the puzzles are and everything, so it's not taking me probably nearly as long to figure the game out versus somebody trying to play it blind
right
for the first time. I will say that the challenge in this game, I'm just playing it on normal. I'm not watering down a Resident Evil game. I'm not going to put a RE game on easy. That's just not something I need to do.
No, it defeats the purpose in a Resident Evil game.
But with a Resident Evil game, like normally you play the game on normal, and then you can roll into a new game, and that's when you do it on the harder difficulty. So I'm just doing normal because I'm just going to play it once, and I don't want it to be a complete pain. Boy, am I glad that that's been my strategy, because holy fuck, the ammo management in this game is rough. And also because it's an over-the-shoulder view, you have a lot more to say about how your hits land. You know, in the old RE games, you just kind of point it in the right direction and unload, and all your bullets would land. And there was like an auto aim thing to turn on the menu, but I'm like, that's a little too cheesy, even for me. So I'm just playing it a la normal. And I'm getting away from fights with like 1 or 0 bullets, going, well, what the fuck am I going to do if I run into something else? And then just in the nick of time, like, it's done a very good job of managing the amount of bullets I need and refilling me adequately.
Yeah.
At the right time. And kind of one of the tricks to Resident Evil 2 is when you get the gunpowders, to hang on to the advanced ones so you can make a bunch of magnum ammo. It makes your ammo situation a little bit more painful up front, but then when you get to the end boss, you can just fucking unload the mag on him and make that a lot easier. So I've been remembering to do that.
Good to know.
However, that is making my ammo plight much, much, much harder right now.
I bet.
So you see dogs, just don't even bother shooting them. Just run. They're stupid. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I can confirm that the remaster ray tracing update that they did, it runs very, very well on PC as well. So any PC gamers out there looking for a game, if you got a high-end rig and you want to show off what your computer can do, those Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes look really, really good on PC as well.
Everyone I've mentioned it to lately is going like, oh yeah, I need to play that still.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one here that hasn't.
No, and I'll tell you what, these are how remakes should be. I mean, they don't get enough credit for it, but they're doing it 100% right.
So outside of Resident Evil 2, I'll finish that in the coming days here, hopefully, if I don't get too busy. I've also been working on Grid Legends, which came out earlier this year. I don't know if I really mentioned it too much last week. I think I might have touched on it briefly. But I'm about, let's see, as of 5 minutes ago, 2/3 of the way through the story. I don't really have much more to say on it. I think last week I said it's a really good arcade racer. And if you are looking for that kind of thing, this is a game you should get. It's also on Game Pass. So just reiterating, if you have interest in playing a fun racing game that you can sit and play with your controller, don't really have to think a ton about what you're doing, Grid Legends is a great place to go, and its actual campaign or story is really good and corny and good, like in all the right ways. So it's not very long. It's like 36 races in total, and then
No, that's not too bad, yeah.
You've beat the main game or whatever. So easy achievement grab for those that like doing that. Next up on the old phone, I've been playing a lot of F1 Clash lately. That's the F1 car management game. Only notable thing to say there is I felt a sense of achievement. I made it to like the highest level of competition on it. Didn't get my ass handed to me. So I'm like, that probably means I've invested a lot of time into this because it's a mobile game.
Yeah.
Ugh. And then you don't feel as happy because you're thinking about all the time that you've wasted.
Those hours rack up on mobile games, man.
I'm probably still ahead of you on Empires and Puzzles, and I haven't touched that bitch in like a year.
Oh, you're definitely ahead of me.
That game,
I remember when I saw the amount of like top level 5 stars that you had.
That game's nuts.
Like so just a sideline for 30 seconds. In Empires and Puzzles, you get the 5-star characters and you can level them up all the way.
Takes forever.
And then they have the talent tree for 20 points. How many characters do you have that are maxed out all the way with that?
Probably 30.
Holy shit, I have 2. So, yeah.
And I mean, that was years of effort. Like,
Oh,
probably
yeah.
4
I mean,
years.
I've been playing it for a year straight. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Newbie.
I know, I'm a pleb at that game still.
Next up, it's time to talk about Scorn. Johnny, did you get a chance to play?
This one. I haven't touched it yet.
Chance to play any Scorn? So last week, if we could just have a quick reminder, and actually I'll put it to you to remember.
Yeah.
Because you might remember something I said more accurately than I remember it. What did I say about Scorn last week before we signed off?
I don't remember exactly what you said, but I do remember that both of us having the same thought in the back of our heads that everything we've seen of the game, we haven't seen anything of substance. It's been all presentation and environments that look cool and crazy looking weapons and enemies that are crazy looking, and like everything about that game was presentation, art style, presentation. You and I both agreed that where's the substance? Where's the story? Where's the plot? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do I have to get out? What is the purpose of any of this shit? How did I get here? Any of that. And every single thing they showed in the game was just, here's more weird stuff in a dark hallway. Go find more dark, weird stuff in another dark, weird hallway.
I warned that I was looking at this game, and it had all the tell signs of being a bad game. But like one of those okey doke kind of bad games that like looks really good on the surface, but then when you actually sit down to play it, it turns out to be bad.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of my vibe watching gameplay of it. Like, once you get past the gore porn that's taking place, what are you actually doing with the controller in the game? And how is that actually interesting and or fun? So we'll come back to that thought, because I've now finally had a chance to sit and play it. I've read some reviews. The reviews seem to be mixed. GameSpot fucking torched the thing. They gave it a 4 out of 10. IGN had some very strong negative things to say about the game, but they still scored it 7 out of 10, which I thought was strange for how harsh their criticisms were of it in their article. So the consensus on the game is a bit mixed, but it seems to be living somewhere around that 6 out of 10 ballpark from other reviewers.
Right.
Fine. So I sat down and I fired it up. And I played it for about an hour before now. It's actually, you can see it on the screen behind me on my Xbox on the TV. Scorn is a little bit different than what I thought.
Okay.
Upon watching gameplay videos of it. For the old folks in the room, you might remember a wonderful game called Myst.
Oh, yeah.
Scorn is Myst. That is what Scorn is. At its core, Scorn is a puzzle-solving game.
Interesting. Okay.
So my whole first hour seems to be taking place within a flashback. There's not a lot of story, but your main character dude wakes up and he's all fucking like tubed to a floor and shit, and real the gore porn stuff. And so he breaks free of that and he starts crawling. And as he's crawling, the room that you're seeing flashes back to a world that sort of looks like Mars, like if there was a future civilization on Mars or something. Very Doom-esque. And so it keeps flipping between these two realities or 2 points in time that your character saw. Falls in a hole, and then you wake up, so to speak. But you wake up not as disfigured or fucked as the character that you saw when you started the game. So I'm assuming that what I'm doing is taking place in the past and it's a memory. At least that seems to be how the game framed it. So upon waking up, There is no HUD. There is nothing on the screen. There's just a world around you. This is a hat tip to Myst, surely, where you're not given anything and you're just expected to walk around and start trying to figure out what's going on. Great.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit more about Myst as we talk about Scorn. So, because it's such a strong comparison that I want to make here.
Yeah.
What was wonderful with Myst, right? Think about Myst. Think about the world of Myst. For those that have no idea what Myst is, MYST, just please watch a video of it real quick.
Yep.
And then come back to the podcast. But Myst's world is incredibly diverse. There's all the different zones. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mystery and wonder. The puzzles have great variance from musical puzzles to visual puzzles. Every one of them is very different from the next.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a beautiful world to live in, even though you're given nothing. The fun of Myst is bouncing around place to place and just trying to figure out even where that first start point is. Because you don't know. And so you kind of have to take notes as you go along. Scorn is very much the same in the sense of you are given no direction and you are just expected to walk forward in this world that is the antithesis of Myst's. It is very dark, it's very scary, it's very glooming, and it's fucked.
Right.
So that at first sounds really appealing.
It does.
Here's how my first hour of play on Scorn went. Walked forward until I found a machine, stuck my hand in a machine, and it very violently implanted me with an interface that I could use on consoles. I'm like, okay, that was kind of cool. Go to the first console, hook into it, place the hand in this keypad thing that's gross and grabs onto your fingertips, and it opens up a door. So you open the door, and the door's slowly closing, so it's telling you, run through the door. Ran through the door. Then I'm in my first puzzle room. And this puzzle room has train tracks on it. It's got all these weird machines that are all like biological and fucking scary looking. It has a big spire in the center that at the top is this like green eyeball that when you look at it, you see from above. You can even see your character, and you see that there's train tracks around the room. And there's an elevator that'll take you up to a second level. So you go up to the second level, and again, you have no idea what the fuck you're doing.
Right.
There's just a machine up there that you can play with. So you poke the first machine, and it moves a crane that reaches over to the spot on the wall where there's nothing. It tries to grab like a claw machine, missing its mark, and then pulls the thing back and lets go. And you're like, well, on that wall, there's stuff that I can move around. So you wind up figuring out, okay, well, I need to move around these orbs on the wall. The first one you get into place, the claw just crumbles. It looked like it was a brittle ball, but then there's ones that are gooier and newer looking. Like, oh, okay.
Okay.
So the next one that's kind of gooey looking, it just squishes and splats all over the place. But then there's this one that's like all the way off in the corner that looks really pristine. But then there's all these other things in the way. So you have to play this puzzle game of moving things to get this clean looking
thing lined up in
clean
place.
looking ball and put it in place. And it winds up putting it on this conveyor belt, and there's a human inside of it. That's all fucking mangled and shit. And so the claw puts it in an elevator and drops it down on the second level. So you run back down, and there's a claw machine, and you put it on this little train and start pushing it around the tracks and try and figure out what the fuck to do next. And all of this is an effort to open a door. And this door has 2 control surfaces. So you need 2 people to open the door. Without spoiling how I solved the puzzle, I'll just say this. I wound up mutilating the arm off of the person and killing them, and then putting an interface like I had received on their hand. And then jamming theirs into one of the machines, and then me working the other to open the door and pass through. And that was how I got through the second door in the game. It took
Sounds
about
like an
an
interesting
hour.
puzzle.
It really was. So
Yeah.
the puzzling in the game is good. So now I'm working on the next puzzle into the very next room. And that was kind of where I said to myself, well, wait a second. I just solved this elaborate room puzzle. So now I come to this next room, and it's the same shtick in the very next room. I've got some...
It sounds like Portal meets Myst.
Little bit. But it's dark, dreary, there's no music,
Right.
There's no story. And, an hour in, the darkness of the world had kind of already lost its allure. Because it's just so dark and depressing. I got my weapon, which presently I've not had to use for combat. I've just had to use it to interface with doors that I couldn't open before.
Okay.
So I'm not ready to review Scorn yet. However, after seeing some things that have been said about it, and I'm always willing to turn a blind eye to other reviewers.
Yeah.
But I will say that even just walking into the second room and immediately being faced with another one of these giant complex puzzles, I did one of these, which are, if you look on YouTube, you'll be able to see the body language that I'm about to demonstrate. I did one of these. So I get through the first door. I'm like, yeah, I got through the door. And I'm like, oh,
There's another puzzle room.
I just have to do the same thing I just did all over again, but it's different now.
Right.
Man, some music would be cool. Man, something not as dark and depressing looking would be cool. So it's interesting because
Sounds
a
interesting.
little bit of a roller
Was I-
coaster of emotions, but I think if I play it in bite-sized pieces, I don't feel like it's a game I could just sit down and take out all at once.
Right.
But I think in bite-sized pieces, I might be able to topple this game and have a good time. One of the parts
Okay.
I'm concerned about is in GameSpot's review. They said later in the game, combat becomes too prevalent and it's a chore. So, haven't gotten there yet, but so far I'm having fun with it, honestly. So it's like dark gore porn Myst, basically.
Interesting.
At this point. So, Scorn, I'm cautiously optimistic, I will say.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
I will complete the game before I pass any further judgment on it. So, Johnny, on to you, sir. What have you been up to?
Same games as last week. FarCry 5. I made a lot of good progress today, actually. I'm to the point now where I think I'm very close to taking out Faith, and I think I'm very close to taking out Jacob, which would be the final 3 to where I then am facing the main one. So I feel like I'm, 65, 70%. I'm pretty decently through that game. I'm really enjoying it a lot. The gunplay feels really good. I've finally reached that point where the combination of the weapons and the vehicles and the helicopters and stuff that I have, I am the golden god of the Hope County. I mean, I roll around and just absolutely mop everything that I touch. But it's really satisfying. It's really fun. There's the map has a lot of fun stuff to do. I was actually enjoying the fishing. I had a couple fishing challenges I had to do. I'm digging the game. I'm still plugging on away at it. Return to Monkey Island, still playing that. Now, I didn't mention this before when I talked about it. When I started the game, it gave me the option of if I wanted the casual or the hard.
I remember
because
this.
I'm an old school adventure point and clicker. I went with the hard. I said, fuck it. Because this is the kind of game I'm probably only really going to play once. I might revisit it years down the future, but like I haven't played a really good point and click adventure game in a very, very long time. So I said, let me just do the whole experience. So I did hard. I've reached a point now where I have my ship. I can travel to like 5 different islands, and I have so many threads going on at one time that I remember I was streaming. Shout out to my channel, twitch.tv/H3LLH3RO. It's Hell Hero with 3s for E's. I'll pop in and say hello. But I was streaming Return to Monkey Island, and one of our viewers, Jaded Lady, who is in the channel on a regular basis, she was pretty invested in this Monkey Island game. She'd watched basically every minute that I'd streamed of it, and she had missed like the first 30 minutes of the stream. And so this is somebody coming in who is aware of like all the characters, all the things that I need to do, and I had to catch her up on what I was doing. And the process of me explaining like, okay, so in order to get one of the keys to find the secret to Monkey Island, I need to get 3 flags from this old fisher so that I can get a map to find out where that key is. So to get one of the flags, I have to prove that I'm an angler. So I now have this new lure, and any character that I see that has that lure, I can engage in a conversation with them, and they're going to ask me a fishing story. And I have to give them a good one, and then they're going to tell me how to improve upon that fishing story, which is then going to let me go to the next guy to now tell my better improved fishing story. He's going to give me another tip. So I'm going to go to the next guy, and it got to the point where it's like 6 or 7 different characters are going, well, you really should elaborate more on this part of the story. Or anytime a fisherman's telling a story, you always got to have fisherman terms in there. You know, what kind of lure were you using? What kind of line were you using? All that kind of stuff. So, like, all of that is just to get one part of one of the 5 keys to unlock the chest for the secret of Monkey Island. If you play this game on hard, it's a lot, but it's fun. I love the... I think the main draw for point-and-click adventure games in general is that feeling, you know, that high of the aha moment, right? People play Dark Souls games because they're punishing and brutal, but then you beat the boss and you get that rush of like, aha, I got him. It's the exact same thing when you're playing a point-and-click game, because there are so many things where you're going, how can I can't, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this. I have no idea what is going to get me this thing that I need. And then all of a sudden, you get the one right prompt in a conversation, or you get the one right item, and you go, I got it. Okay, I need to take this to him to do this, and then that's going to let me do that. And then all of a sudden, the dominoes start falling. So you will get at points in these types of games where you're like, I've got 87 things that I need to do, and I don't know how to do a single one of them. I'm completely lost. But as soon as you figure out one of them, then you go, oh, now I can go do that, which means I can now do that, which means I can now do that. It is a very tightly woven adventure game, and I am extremely, extremely impressed. I talked it up really strongly in the last episode, and I'm going to do it again. If you like point-and-click adventure games, this is in the conversation for one of the better ones. It's really, really good. And lastly, Overwatch 2 has pretty much taken over my life. I have 7 or 8 play of the game highlights saved to my hard drive that I will be uploading to my TikTok because they are brutal. I have a Pharah pentakill where I did not touch the ground. I stayed aloft while killing the entire enemy team. I am having a absolute buttload of fun with this game. I got a couple of my old gaming buddies have come back out of the woodwork. You know, those ones that says, you know, last online 6 months ago or last online a year ago. I was in the middle of playing it, and I saw an old familiar face. I was like, oh, dude, let's go right now. Me and you, let's go. So I've been partying up with buddies and falling into the multiplayer thing. But Overwatch 2 is a lot of fun. The rebalances that they've done, I talked about it at length last week, so I'll move on. But I'm really enjoying Overwatch 2 quite a bit.
Well, very good. And that is going to wrap up what we have been playing this week, which brings us to the news. So a lot of different news articles out this past week, but one in particular caught my interest. And it's about something that, honestly, I wasn't that interested in until I started digging deeper. Some controversy around the game Bayonetta 3. burst onto the internet this week thanks to a voice actress whose name is Hellena Taylor. Now, of course, if you're familiar with the Bayonetta series, you're probably familiar with this voice actress, as she was the voice of Bayonetta in Bayonetta 1, 2, and I think also the Smash Brothers games. She took to Twitter with some fire and brimstone this past week. Here's a story per Video Games Chronicle. Bayonetta's voice actor has asked fans to boycott the upcoming third game, claiming she was offered an insulting fee to reprise her role. In a series of video messages published on Twitter Saturday, Hellena Taylor alleged she was offered just $4,000 to return for Bayonetta 3 and criticized developer Platinum and publisher Nintendo. It was recently confirmed that Taylor had been replaced in her role as the lead in the third game by veteran actress Jennifer Hale. At the time, Platinum claimed it was due to Taylor's schedule, but Taylor has now denied that this was the case. In the video messages, which Taylor claimed was an act of her breaking non-disclosure agreements, the actress claimed she wrote to Platinum Games and head Hideki Kamiya, who offered her what she called an immoral offer to reprise her role. She went on to claim that her concern about being out of work caused her to suffer anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. So upon reading all this, I had a lot of questions. Her videos, it was like a series of 4 different Twitter posts, just a ton of time of her talking about what's going on, her outlook on it. And the initial response, it seemed, from most people that read this was, oh, Platinum Games is real bad. How could they only offer you $4,000? This is terrible. I was sitting thinking to myself, I'm like, there's no way that I'm getting the full story here. So I decided to do what Mike Dawson's do best and begin digging for the full story. So one of the things that concerned me greatly here is one of the last lines of the story that I read, which was, again, she went on to claim that her concern about being out of work caused her to suffer anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. So I pulled up her IMDb to take a look at what's been going on. And to be honest, she has not had work in what seems like a very long time. Her last entry on her IMDb was for Super Smash Brothers for Wii U, where she voiced Bayonetta. That was in 2014. Same year, she voiced in Bayonetta 2. Same year, she did voicing for 3DS. Year prior, Bayonetta Bloody Fate. Anarchy Reigns, where she voiced Bayonetta. That was in 2012. And you go back to 2009. It looks like she had a drop in one of my favorite games of all time, Dragon Age Origins, playing some kind of off characters.
Yeah.
But really, Bayonetta is probably the first thing in 2009 that would catch your eye, other than maybe Valkyrie Profile. And she's been doing voice acting since 1992. And yeah, she just goes completely dark in 2014. So if she's been suffering anxiety and depression and suicidal thoughts about being out of work, I think it's a little unfair, considering that all the work that she's had since 2009 seems to be supplied by Platinum Games, and that she hasn't really done anything since 2014, which is 8 years ago. But there's definitely more to it than just that. The big stink seems to be around the amount she was offered of $4,000.
Yep.
And the contrast or concern there you would have is, well, if they've only offered her $4,000 to reprise her role as Bayonetta, I don't know the first thing about voice acting in a video game. How much work is that really? And then what's the comparable? How much was she paid on the previous games? What's typical of a voice actor or actress to be paid? So Sean Chiplock chimed in on Twitter upon seeing these different stories and things. And Sean Chiplock was the voice of Rivaldi in Breath of the Wild. Johnny, pretty well-known character, right? Rivaldi from Breath of the Wild. So Sean Chiplock says that in a series of tweets, but basically he was paid approximately $2,000 to $3,000 overall to voice Rivaldi in Breath of the Wild, a Zelda game. He says, and I quote, I was paid approximately $2,000 to $3,000 overall because it was based on the total number of hours in the studio, which was higher because of voicing 3 characters in a single game. He also went on to state he made more from voicing a character in Freedom Planet 1 because that game generously, he says, gave him sales royalties. And this was an indie game versus a Nintendo game.
Yep.
Also chiming in, and this was over in the comments section of Kotaku, another prominent voice actor, William Sawyers, chimed in. Now, for those unfamiliar with his work, and I'll say the same for Sean Chiplock, both of these guys are working their brains out. You go look at
work.
Either one of their IMDb's and compare it to Hellena Taylor's, and you're going, oh my gosh, the amount of stuff that William Sawyers has done in the past 2 years is like more than Hellena Taylor's done in her entire career. So that was kind of interesting. So I would say then that William Sawyers is probably someone who I should listen to because he works a ton. For those unfamiliar with his name, he was the voice of Mordin Solus in Mass Effect 3. He also voiced Dr. Octavius in the 2018 Spider-Man game. So here's his comment. And I know I'm talking for a while, but I'm trying to set up everything so Johnny can come in and knock it down here in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So William says on the Kotaku posting of this story, in the comment section, he just left this comment there. So I did some digging, I found it, and I went, oh, wow, William Sawyers commented? Well, what does he have to say? So to the Twitter post from Hellena Taylor, he says, this is very tough territory for all involved. I was hired to replace Michael Beatty as Mordin Solus in Mass Effect 3. I had never played the game, so I didn't even know I was replacing someone. I found out when I showed up to the session. My agents had sent me the audition, referring to it as an alien scientist, and included a sound sample, which is not usual for established IPs. I thought, oh,
not unusual.
Oh, right, sorry. Not unusual for established IPs. I thought, oh, this must be how the species sounds, so I'll try to sound like that. Initially, I caught a lot of Mass Effect fan hate for taking that job. Then people played the game and seemed to adjust. Michael Beatty was very kind about it. When fans asked him if he would be involved, he simply said no, without trying to make life harder on me or BioWare. For my part, I always correct anyone who mistakenly says that I created the role or that I played the character in Mass Effect 2. Jennifer Hale is one of the premier voice actors in the business, so it isn't like they hired a hack to save money. I don't know the game or this particular character, Bayonetta, but in my experience, $4,000 is a good offer for a couple of sessions, which is all most games require. It would be considered overscale by union standards, and I'd be pleased to get it. I'm not sure what Mrs. Taylor means when she refers to a living wage. We're contractors, so we're paid per session. That's never enough money to live off one gig for any length of time. The presumption is that actors like us will be doing multiple sessions per month for different projects, which can add up to a living wage. That doesn't always happen, of course, but that risk comes with the territory. Most actors know and accept it. Working actors, not stars, are like professional gamblers. We hope to win enough games at enough casinos to piece together a living. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. That's just how it works. I thought this was really cool to see someone of his stature stop and write just a comment on a Kotaku article. William Sawyers is no bum. He was in Saints Row this year, Multiverses. He was in Wildflowers, Back for Blood. I'm just going with video games here. He's also got a bunch of TV stuff. He was the Fixer in Ratchet and Clank. He was also the Robot Pirates. He was obviously in Mass Effect Legendary Edition. He was in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I already mentioned he was Otto Octavius. He was in the Final Fantasy VII remake. On and on and on and on. Yakuza Like a Dragon. I mean, just top tier games. And he comes in and says, wow, I'd be happy to do it for $4,000.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to get puzzled, more puzzled, the more deeply I look into this. And then I happen to bump across a YouTube video from an interview that Hellena Taylor gave years ago to Nintendo Players UK. I'm assuming this is in the early 2010s because she's talking about Bayonetta 2. We've established that she hasn't done anything since 2014. So I'm going to link the video wherever you're listening to this podcast, and obviously in the comment section or description of the YouTube video. But if you fast forward to 740, here's the exchange that goes on. The person interviewing her goes by some catchy handle, Faz or whatever. So, Faz, how long did it take for recording? From the first line until it was done. He's asking about Bayonetta 1 and 2.
Would you like me to do the voice of Taylor just to make this a little bit less confusing, potentially?
Go for it. She's British.
Okay. Oh, God. Okay.
And female.
Taylor says, I recorded for 4 days.
Faz, oh, wow. You did the entire... Was that Bayonetta 1 and 2?
Half a day each. Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2, she's referring to. So 4-hour sessions it took me.
Oh, wow. I swear Bayonetta talked more than that.
I'm very quick. It was literally do 3 lines of each line, and that was it. It's very quick.
So in her interview, she says she did 2 Bayonetta games in 16 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm starting to get confused. I'm starting to get a little upset. Because, Johnny, I don't know about you, right? But if I could make, let's say each one of those games I got $4,000 for. So if in 16 hours I could make $8,000, what the fuck is she talking about?
That's $500 an hour.
And I get it. You're not going to have this work all the time. It comes and goes, as William Sawyer said.
Mm-hmm.
But then I look at his IMDb and I'm like, God damn. 1, 2,
does everything.
3, 4, 5. 5 projects in 2022 already. One of them's a fucking TV series.
Yep.
This guy's making fucking bank. And he's not a household name.
Yep.
You look at Chip's IMDb, it's same thing. You know, Sean Chiplock, rather.
Jennifer Hale's especially.
Well, Jennifer Hale is an A-tier voice acting superstar. So, like, she's
up there with Nolan North. Yep.
And she probably costs more than $4,000.
Probably.
But Sean Chiplock, you look at him, and it's like the amount of work he has is just insane, even compared to William Sawyer's. And his TV shows and video games and all this stuff. And then you look at Hellena Taylor's and you're like, she's not done anything since 2014. And even when you go back there, it's like 3 projects a year tops.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm really confused here now. everything I'm seeing from folks that are actually in the industry speaking up are saying that this is a great deal. This is completely normal, and they'd be happy to do it. But then Hellena Taylor, who's, again, not done anything since 2014, is calling out the creators and Nintendo for being too greedy, because Bayonetta's made about $450 million, right? And so she thinks it's just absurd that she's only offered $4,000 to be the voice of Bayonetta. So here's my final thoughts, and maybe you can address them and tell me if anything I'm saying lines up. One, I think it's absurd that she's calling for Bayonetta to be boycotted because she didn't get a job that somebody else would have been happy to take at the rate offered. And here's what I think that tells me is she feels entitled to somebody else's money because of a character that she didn't create, but she voice acted for. You know, in Japan, where the game is native, she's not the voice actress for Bayonetta. It's some other person. She's just the English voice of Bayonetta. Great. But she doesn't have any skin in the game. If the game comes out and it flops, she's at no risk. She doesn't own Bayonetta. She's a hired contractor that's tasked with the job of voicing Bayonetta. And she's agreed to do the character for years, obviously, with no rights and no profit lines attached to royalties on the game. And it's also the only thing she's really done in the past decade plus. So all the work she has is coming from this one source. She's not doing anything else. She's not paid royalties on it.
She's waiting for the phone to ring. And when the phone rang, it wasn't enough money.
And I don't even know how that's possible when you're not doing anything else. You're paying your bill somehow. You've survived for the past 8 years on something. So you're obviously doing something, or you're married to someone who has income or whatever. But you look at her portfolio and you look at a couple other chaps that chimed in. And then you look at the person that they replaced her with. I mean, Johnny, what's going on here?
Well, I mean, so first off, when I saw the post and I saw the headline of, voice of Bayonetta is calling for a boycott of this game because she was only offered $4,000, I was with the rest of the internet. My initial knee-jerk reaction was, man, that's kind of bullshit. That doesn't seem like a lot of money. But then when you started breaking this down and I started thinking about, first off, how much work is the Bayonetta role, okay? The average voice acting role for a lead character in a AAA, 2022 video game is full-blown conversations, different choices in dialogue, different emotional responses based on the outcome of the things that are happening in the game. Can be a lot of work. Bayonetta is one-liners and nothing but one-liners. Bayonetta is looks like somebody's being naughty. Looks like look, now it's the turn for the. I mean, it's all one-liners. It's all the fuck it is. It's like the easiest gig in the world, right? So then when she said all those years ago, well, yeah, I knocked out 1 and 2 in 16 hours. So then my brain immediately went to a line of work that I am familiar with, and I do know how it works, and that's like the session musician world, right? So the greatest, guitar session workers in Nashville, they get the call that say, hey, we want you to play on this new Taylor Swift album. Here's the number. All they care about is this within the line of what I'm expected to get paid in my line of work? And that's it. They don't go, well, it's Taylor Swift, so you got to pay me $1 million. No, they go, okay, I can knock that out in probably 2 sessions. you're saying it's X. Yeah, that's good money. I'll take it. Right? And because they realized they're not the star. People aren't buying Bayonetta because I gotta hear her voice more. No, they enjoy the game. They enjoy the vibe. I'm sure there are plenty of hardcore Bayonetta fans that are going to be sad that she passed on this, but the fact of the matter is she turned down $4,000, which would probably have been 8 hours worth of work. Let's say worst case it was 20 hours worth of work. I'd take $4,000 all day. Are you kidding me? And then you get to go do the video game conventions and sign autographs, and you can still be the voice of Bayonetta. But no. I do sort of see her side of expecting more only because it is the lead role in a video game. She has always been the voice of that character in that video game. So I can see her, like, trying to negotiate for more money. I can see that angle. I do get it. But the biggest red flag for me is these different comments that you found online. If this number was the slap in the face that she claimed that it was, then you would see other voice actors. This would be like a mini Me Too movement of voice actors going, they offered you what? That's bullshit. You're the star of this game. They offered you $4,000 to be Bayonetta in Bayonetta 3? Like, the internet, as far as voice actors go, would have exploded. But instead, all the voice actors are going, $4,000? Yeah, that's in line. Yeah, I voiced Rivali and 2 other characters in Breath of the Wild. I made $2,000-3,000. You know, and I know we think about it and go, well, that doesn't sound like a lot of money. But then the fact of the matter is exactly the point you made. When you look at the IMDb's of these people, they're working. They're always working. They've got a gig every other day. They're knocking down, you know, when you look at the amount of projects that they have, I'd say they have at least once a week.
Yeah.
Probably 1 a week, 2 a week. They're eating good. They're making good money, but they're working. They're not sitting around waiting for the phone to ring of, gee, when am I going to get my Bayonetta phone call? You know, and I think that maybe she thought that she'd found this gravy train, that she'd be able to just ride out and just like ride out this role and make all this money. But the fact of the matter is, if she wanted to be a voice actor, if that's like her love in life and that's what she wanted to focus on, she would have been working this whole time. But she hasn't done a video game in what, 8 years?
Anything.
6 years? On anything. Nothing at all.
TV shows, nothing.
I mean, I just,
I would be interested, and I might try and send her a message to see if she would come and talk to us. Because where to take something that like Bayonetta would be to her, and you come out and say, I want you to boycott the game because this offer they made me is a slap in the face. And by all rights, we see this is standard operating procedure. And when you lay it out and think, her own words, it's 8 hours of work to do a Bayonetta game.
Yep.
Okay, $4,000 for 8 hours of work.
I'll take that. I'll quit my job tomorrow if that's what you're paying.
Please don't come cry to me about that not being a lot of money. And yes, I get it. Sega has made $450 million on Bayonetta.
Yep.
You put in 16 hours of time.
Correct.
Okay? To talk into a microphone, to do work that you described as being very easy. 16 hours. How much time do you think it takes to make one of these fucking games? And like, I am...
Yeah, no, it's not like she's in the motion capture room playing the role like they do in The Last of Us for what I'm sure is months of filming. This would be
like the bitch that's the voice when you push the help me button in your Ford car, thinking they deserve profits from every Ford vehicle sold.
Right. I'm the voice of OnStar. Are you kidding me? You're only going to pay me X amount? Like, no.
That's what this is like. It's like,
yeah,
And I am the last person to ever want to defend the giant corporation or anything, but this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be like the OnStar lady.
Now she's effectively
saying that I deserve a cut of every Ford car sold because my voice is in it.
Right.
It's like you didn't build a car. You talked.
Right.
Sorry, I cut you off. What were you about to say?
No, I mean it's gig work, man. That's what gig work is. If you don't work, you don't make money.
I honestly,
and if and to follow up on your point, if she doesn't own anything, right? So I gave the example of a session musician goes, okay, $1,000 a day, yeah, no problem, I got it. I can come play drums on that song. I can go play guitar for that album. I can go do whatever, right? But they all know that if they wanted to make the real money, you've got to write the song. You got to create something. You're not walking in and going, here's a song that's completely written. Here's the style of music we want it to sound like. Play the song. Because those session musicians, a lot of times they're even just handed sheet music.
I mean,
where there's no thought process whatsoever. They just sit down and knock out the song. It's no different than voice acting. You're handed... She's not writing the dialogue. She's not sitting in the writer's room helping build the story and craft the things
she's acting like she created Bayonetta.
I know.
And I'm starting to wonder, and like this is a legitimate worry of mine with this lady, especially after watching her videos. I think she's mentally fucking ill. Because she's talking about depression and suicidal thoughts, and I don't care about breaking my NDA, you know. What are they going to do? Come take the clothes off my back? It's like, so I'm actually concerned because this is crazy. I hope she gets help. This is crazy behavior. You know, we've dealt with some fucking nut jobs when we were at Guitar Center together all those years.
Yep.
You know, people that think they're a lot more important than they actually are. And it's like, lady, you didn't create Bayonetta. You voiced her lines in English.
For a couple days.
For not even a day's total time, for 16 hours. Per your own words, 16 hours. So, yeah, I thought this was just wildly interesting when I read about this and started digging deeper and deeper and seeing all these comments. It wasn't the story that I thought would take over my interest for the week, but Hellena Taylor calling for the boycott of Bayonetta. She's going to get her fucking brain suit out.
I remember what my thought was. She's effectively blackballed herself out of the voice work business.
She'll never work
completely now at this point. Is anyone ever going to want to hire someone that says, I am now that character, and if you dare hire anyone else to do that role, then, you know, I mean, this is how all of this works. You know, if Chris Evans gets hired to play Captain America for X amount of movies and his contract is up and they decide to hire someone else, do you think Chris Evans is going to go online and be like, I am Captain America? How dare they book someone else? Everyone should boycott this movie. I didn't even get a phone call. No, your contract's up.
You'll get sued into oblivion also.
They don't owe you anything, dude. They owed you X amount of games or X amount of movies
the contract.
Or X amount of albums. As soon as you're done that contract, they don't owe you anything.
Well, the last thing here, too, right? And this is just like big boy pants, whatever, and then we're done with this. Is if somebody makes you an offer, you don't have to take it. They don't owe you anything, and you don't owe them anything.
Absolutely.
You don't own Bayonetta. So if they offer you $4,000 and that wasn't cool, just say, that's not what I think I'm worth. I'm done. But this bitch is crazy. She thinks she owns this. Why else is she coming online saying boycott this and a 4-video series, you know, just ranting and raving? It's like, what?
Well, and it's not like, you know, 6 months after Bayonetta 3 comes out, she's doing an interview at some video game convention and they go, why weren't you in Bayonetta 3? And, well, you know, they came to the table and the money just didn't feel right and I just didn't take it. That should be it. Like, that should be, they called me, I didn't like the number, I turned them down.
It's just mind-blowing. It's
not shouting from the rooftops, boycott
this is completely crazy. And the thing that's really ticking me off is an hour of my time, right? I got a full picture here, and I think it's very different from what a lot of the gaming media is circulating right now.
I agree. Well, there's the Power Gamer podcast scoop.
Yes, sir. So that wraps up my news of the week. Now I'm going to let Johnny have the microphone. I guess
buddy.
However long you need it, because I know nothing about what you're about to talk about.
Okay, it's fine. I'm just going to talk to my PC gaming community and anybody looking for a GPU. So we talked a little bit about the NVIDIA 4000 series, and I had mentioned that I thought the price was kind of bullshit. It seemed really high. For me, it felt like, the 3000 series during the pandemic, when you couldn't get them, it was at the peak of GPU mining. Scalper prices were through the roof. The $700 video card was selling for $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 all day. For me as a PC gamer, the 4000 series pricing felt like NVIDIA went, well, they were happy paying $1,500 before. Here, pay $1,500 without the scalpers. But it gets worse. So when they announced the 4080, they said there's two models, right? They did the same thing with the 3080. There was the 3080 10 gig model and the 3080 12 gig model. There's like a $300-$400 price point. The only difference on paper between those two cards was the amount of memory, okay? So you make that decision. Do I want to spend the extra money on the RAM? No, I don't. I'll save the money. Cool. Sounds good. When they announced these 4080s, which there's a 12 gig and a 16 gig, you're thinking the same thing, right? It's probably just the VRAM, size, and that's the only difference. The 4080 12 gig has 27% less CUDA cores. Okay, it has 100% lower clock speed, and it even has a lower memory bus. The 16 gig is 256. The 12 gig is 192. So everything about these two cards is not the same card. This is some false advertising fuckery bullshit, and the enthusiast PC gaming community all shouted from the rooftops, you should have named the 12 gigabyte model a 4070 and not a 4080. They are not the same card. And the really bullshit part is that if you are not a consumer that does your research, does your Googling, look at benchmarks and all that, if you just walked into Micro Center and you saw the two cards side by side, it doesn't tell you the CUDA cores on the side of the box. It doesn't tell you the core clock. You have no idea. You're thinking, cool, same product, different RAM. NVIDIA, after all this outrage, has officially unlaunched the 12 gigabyte model. It no longer exists. No word on if it's going to be shelved forever, if it's going to be renamed. We don't know. It's dead. So that's NVIDIA's side of it. Here's where things get interesting. Intel is now launching their Arc series. So they have the A750 and the A770. They are priced at $289 and $329. You can get some kind of tweaked out ones at $349, but all of them are like $350 or less. And I've seen multiple benchmarks where this card beats the pants off of or runs right alongside the 3070. The 3070 is right now, even today, I just searched on Amazon, is still a $550 to $700 card. So Intel comes out with a $300 card that goes toe-to-toe with the $600 NVIDIA. But wait, there's more. AMD is going to have a showcase in about 2 weeks on November 3rd, where they're going to show their new RDNA 3, which is their next line of the ATI Radeon cards. This is the first GPU that has a 5-nanometer process. So it means tighter processor, tighter electronics. This is what made Ryzen jump up big time in performance. There's a possibility AMD might blow the doors down and release a $500 card that goes toe-to-toe with the $1,500 NVIDIA. That might happen. We don't know yet. Long story short, the reason why I wanted my soapbox for this moment. Right now, at this point in time in 2022, this is the worst possible time to buy a GPU. A rising tide raises all ships. It goes the same when the tide goes down. If Intel has a $300 video card that whoops the shit out of the $500-$600 NVIDIA, And AMD has a card that might come in that $500-$600 range that gets pretty close to the $1,000, $1,500 NVIDIAs. These prices are going to fluctuate like you would not believe coming into the holiday season. Do not buy a video card right now. Wait for the dust to settle. Come early December, mid-December, we'll probably have a really good idea of where these things are at. And I am of the opinion these $1,500 NVIDIA cards are going to be $1,000. Hold the line. Don't buy yet. That's my soapbox. Thank you.
And
thank you for tuning in for my TED.
And on that note,
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for One Up. My One Up this week is The Expanse. I've just finished season 2 of The Expanse, and my God, you're a sci-fi nerd? Get on your Amazon. Watch The Expanse. It's fucking fantastic. I love every second of it. It's like Star Trek if it paid even more attention to science and was darker and grittier and more interesting. It's very good. Check out The Expanse if you haven't watched it yet. It's definitely...
I got to jump back in. I think I'm almost done.
It's very fucking good. That's
okay.
My One Up. Johnny, what's yours?
Mine is I had 2 entire freezer bags full of hot peppers from the garden. And at this point, we'd already made pepper jelly. We'd already made what's called cowboy candy, candied jalapeno. We'd made all these things. Now is the time for me to do something I had never done before, and that was make my own homemade hot sauce. So I fermented 2 32-ounce jars full to the brim with fresh banana pepper, fresh jalapeno, and fresh. There was one other kind of pepper in my garden, but I don't know what they were. I think they might have been serrano. But I diced those up, put them in a brine, put it in a fermenting kit so that it can burp out the gas, and let them sit for a week. I then took those out. I toasted about 8 or 10 cloves of garlic to get them nice and brown. So now I have garlic oil and garlic chips. I took all the peppers, all the garlic chips, some of the garlic oil, a little bit of vinegar. I threw in about 1.5 habanero peppers fresh. I had a couple other little hot peppers that I got from a local shop, hot, but I don't know what they were. Threw all of those in the food processor and then pushed them through cheesecloth and pushed them through a sieve so that I get just the liquid. I wanted to thicken it up a little bit, so I did take like 1 scoop of sort of the pepper mash and threw it in there. Still wasn't thick enough, so I took a carrot, I ran that through the processor and put all those chunks in, and I now have a big-ass jar of my own hot sauce. It's pretty goddamn good. It's got a lot of flavor. It has that lingering heat, but it doesn't set you on fire, and that's what I wanted, and I'm very proud of myself. I found something else to do with my peppers, and then, of course, this morning we picked another, I'm going to say 80 hot peppers out of the garden,
Yes.
so I don't know what I'm going to do with those yet.
We need to make chicken wings.
I'm down.
Maybe I just need to have you bring your sauce over here where I have all the chicken wing making stuff.
Sure.
And do it up.
Yeah, I'm down. Hell yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps episode 88 of the Power Gamer Podcast. We will, of course, be back again next week with another great episode of the Power Gamer Podcast for you to enjoy. Until then, I'm Mike Dawson.
And I'm Johnny Pollock.
Tune in next time. Take care.
Catch you on the flip-flop.